Finals. I'm Rob Simpson here. Joined with me today is Jorisar, and we are moving into game number 2 of Gamania.Sen versus IG.XY.
That's right, Rob, and I'm pretty excited to be seeing exactly what kind of strategy we have out here in game number 2, because spawning in the bottom right position as the blue Zerg, the guy who decided the Zerglings were actually a pretty good unit towards the end of game number 1, and based on exactly what we saw, who can blame him? Gamania.Sen, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be down here, and in the top right, as the red Terran player representing Invictus Gaming. Let's see what our Chinese Terran can do. We need him to try and stay in the tournament, but he's down 1 game. It is XY.
Now, fortunately enough, even if he loses this, he's not out. Right? He's got the lower bracket to battle his way through.
Yes, he's
now
still hanging around.
He will have a difficult road ahead of him, because down in that lower bracket we're starting to see more and more talent get down there. But hey, even in the upper bracket you're going to have a tough time, because if you win this match, you're going on to either play against Squirtle or CJ Entness Hero.
Wait, what?
Yeah. The winner of this game is either faced by Squirtle or CJ
If you told
Hero.
me that, I'd be like, man, bring me to the lower bracket any day. Holy moly, that is a tough bracket, ladies and gentlemen. So either Squirtle or Hero awaits the person who wins this best of 3. Sen currently 1 game up, of course. The hatch at the natural has just gone down, and we just have all of the lag by the looks of things, but hopefully that will get resolved in a second or 2.
We are hanging on, so we are good to go. Now, the loser of this game goes on to play against Jim.
Okay.
Now, Jim's been pretty sick. Jim's the player that took 1 game off of Seed.
Yep.
Which is pretty wild.
That's pretty good to take a game off the reigning GSL champion, man.
And he also very handily disposed of Ash.
Wow, and Ash is I would say Ash is a pretty underrated Asian player as well. So
yeah, he just had a lot of problem in his PvP.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Well, neither of these players is a Protoss, so Jim's going to be pretty happy to hear that. That the person coming down to meet him in the lower bracket will guarantee not be a mirror matchup. So let's see.
Well, I think that would almost be what Jim would love to have. But
I would think so.
It's not going to happen, yeah. But it's good news for either of these players. He's like, he only wants to play PvP.
Yeah.
So moving into this game, nothing out of the ordinary over here. We've got the CC being added on by XY, and of course the natural for Sen finishing up.
And I think XY is going to be going for a triple command here by the looks of things. Yes, we do. Oh, pardon me. Yeah, XY...
I was like, wait, what?
No, wait, XY's halfway through. Sorry, I was looking at the Zerg for a second.
Yeah.
So Sen, going to be dropping not too much out of the ordinary here. The hatch has gone down. Spawning pool is now complete as well, and another round of drones going down. 2 queens, that's where those minerals went just now. And things are actually shaping up to be pretty normal.
Now, does XY decide that it's time for him to push through and get more aggressive on Sen?
Then
or do you just say, okay, Sen, I'm going to play your game. I'm going to macro up too?
Well, he's scouted and he knows that Sen took the natural. But at this moment in time, aside from knowing that the pool is down and that no gas has been taken, XY doesn't really know too much about what Sen's build is at the moment. Plus, he went up to his command center pretty quickly in the game, so it's unlikely that he's going to be able to put on too much aggression right now. What he's doing, I think, is the standard follow-up. He's just going to be going for those reactored Hellions, getting the natural expansion down, and then immediately going for that double gas so that you have enough gas to put down the factory and the reactor on the barracks as soon as you can. Out of this, XY will have a couple of options. He can go into really heavy bio pressure. He might even go straight into mech, or the most common follow-up to this, of course, would just be to go straight for the starport and stick another tech lab on the barracks for that Banshee follow-up.
I mean, that's likely what we're going to see at XY. I don't think that we've seen many of the Terrans really try anything else. And there we go, the final confirmation that we needed. Yep. Well, just about. We'll see what that barracks chooses to do when it lands. Almost certainly going to be a tech lab being added on over there.
Now, for those of you wondering why the barracks just randomly repositioned itself, of course, Terran players, when doing this kind of build, which is super standard, they move the barracks as close to the starport as they can get, so that when they swap the buildings around, they have that 1 or 2 precious extra seconds to get those Banshees out. And Sen is now going to be taking his 3rd hatchery, actually, at a reasonably early point in the game. This is not something you typically see too often against Hellion openings, and the reason for that is simple. Although Sen is actually countering it pretty well. You want to make sure you basically spread creep between your natural expansion and your third so quick to do this. Otherwise, your third's just going to be sat there and it will be camped out by Hellions. You won't be able to mine at it for the longest possible time, and it gets super frustrating. But if XY can come out here with enough units, possibly with a little bit of marine support for these Hellions would be nice, so that the queens are forced back, you'll be able to take apart the creep a little bit earlier. But as it stands, Sen is actually doing quite a good job of holding them off.
Yeah, right now, having exclusively those Hellions to battle the massive numbers of queens that Sen is adding out on the map, XY is just not going to be able to break through that. And he's also not willing to commit to building any additional marines. Over here, he has just about finished up that first Banshee, but has not followed up with Cloak.
No, he hasn't. He's just going to be moving in with that uncloaked Banshee at the moment. We see another command center going down for him as well. And actually immediately switching up.
Yeah, the single Banshee, and then immediately swapping over to get a reactor out, because he's going to go with that big bio play.
Okay, I like that. So XY's decided he's going with the bio play this game. I wonder if Sen, anticipating the Banshee follow-up, is going to be going for Spore Crawlers in all of the bases. That would be something that we would...
That would be so smart.
It would be, but then it's also smart of XY to only go for one Banshee, not put any research into Cloak, and then transition out of that into something else entirely. He's trying to get Sen to spend more than XY otherwise would have.
Well, so Cloak literally costs you 2 medevacs, right? Like in this case, we're going to see XY that'll have 2 more medevacs than he would have if he had gone for that Cloak, or had invested more into any of those additional Banshees.
And here we go. It looks like no Spore Crawlers are actually going up for Sen, so he's confident he should be able to hold this off with Queens alone. And if there was Cloak right now, that would be super frustrating, but there isn't, and therefore this Queen's going to be able to do a decent amount of damage. And actually,
is the Banshee going to go down? He does not have Cloak to get out of here, but getting to the far edges of the map and just barely surviving.
5 kills. I would say that's par for the course for the Banshee. Ideally, you kind of want 7 or 8 to sort of look at it and go, oh yeah, I wouldn't mind a couple more kills just to make sure this is like super worth my time. But the Banshee get 5 kills there. We have the third orbital on the way as well. And now starting that medevac, interestingly, and a Viking production as well. So XY, similar to what we saw in the previous game, just getting out the one Viking to remove those overlords around the map, which I really like.
Well, you may as well. You only need to get a couple to have it be worth it. And in that case, it also helped him scout the Mutalisk count as well. So it ultimately does end up being quite worth it. Now, Sen does have that 4th on the way. As he once again gets up to the Spire.
Yup, the Sen is being he's been taking his bases pretty quickly in this matchup, but I think it's a good reaction from him. If you guys think back to game number 1 about how Sen was basically able to expand all over the map and XY wasn't denying the creep spread, and he wasn't going in to try and poke, and his drops were shut down by the mutas super early on in the game, Sen knows that he can effectively spread his creep as and when he likes. He's just using a couple links here to keep the Hellions at bay, but XY isn't really doing anything substantial to prevent the creep spread, and Sen is almost already in the center of the map. It's not even the 12-minute mark yet. We have another, the Viking coming in here to pick apart a couple of the Overlords. Sen not choosing to send all the Overlords back to base, interestingly, because he knows the mutas will be out in just a second, although he has to get them out pretty quickly, otherwise he's actually going to end up losing another 3 or 4, and the remaining Overlords in the top will be able to effectively scout.
And they do see this one drop moving in from XY. The lone Banshee does see up there that there's not a whole lot of saturation just yet up in the 4th. A very nice pickup from XY, not losing too very much.
Yep. And there's a lot of resources banked at the moment for Sen, but because of this Viking down below, I'm actually surprised he had this happen, although only for a couple of seconds. He was actually supply blocked for a bit. 3 kills and counting on this Viking, so a lot of Overlords going down. Definitely worth its weight. But we now have 10 Mutalisks incoming, and Sen has spent all of his gas on a whole flock of mutas. And as soon as that flock of mutas is out on the map, Sen will comprehensively regain map control, Rob. And once he does that, he should be able to spread the creep even further.
Oh, man, yeah, those Mutalisks are, well, decimating the Viking, and now they're going to continue their tear as they move up towards that Banshee. The Banshee does not have Cloak. There is no escaping these Mutalisks.
Yep, and only 14
unless
hit
you
points
hide
as well.
Unless you completely hide it and your opponent does not find it.
But then you do nothing with it, and you can't actually kill stuff, so it's just taking up supply.
Oh!
Nice choice to
Baneling
use
connect.
Exactly, really good stuff. He pulled the Zerglings back and actually moved the Baneling forward as well, so that was good stuff coming out of there from
We
Sen.
don't want to risk those Zerglings blocking the surface area for just long enough for him to lift up the Marines.
Exactly. So that was really cool stuff coming out of there from Sen, effectively nullifying what that drop was worth. It looks like 2 meters aren't going to be enough to defeat 2 Marines when you have approximately 1 million worth of healing involved. But if you come back with all of your friends, Rob, that seems to be perfectly fine.
It does, because, hey, everything's more fun with friends, Jorisar. Mutalists certainly agree as they move along with the buddy system towards the center of the map to continue establishing that control. Now, Sen has taken a 5th out there, pretty much uncontested. There's not much that XY is going to be able to do to break through this. And Sen, once again, we see him just saving up all of those larvae behind this that he can follow through, likely with the really big Ling push once again. Look at that money.
I'm just getting really worried for XY here. I mean, he is up to 190 supply, but he's been playing this game really passively. Sen has now extended his creep past the middle of the map. He has a lot of Lings and Banelings out. This flock of Mutas has effectively gone uncontested so far in this game. Once again, XY has just allowed Sen to play the game he wants to play, and that doesn't necessarily mean he's going to lose or anything, but you normally see, I don't know, Terrans try to get some drone kills with the Hellions, get a couple more drone kills with the Banshees as well, chuck in a couple of drops here and there to shut them down and make sure they can't move out through the center of the map. Every one of those things that XY's done so far this game along those lines has just been completely shut down.
It has, because Sen is just so sick. Oh man, even getting out here and picking off a couple additional Hellions. Oh, just adding insult to injury. Oh no, wow. Oh, I am surprised that he did not go for the magic box onto those Thors, because when you get that spread, you really don't need very many Mutalisks to kill a Thor.
Well, I think that might have actually, with hindsight, been quite a good move for Sen there, because the Thor had 2 friends behind him, so as he was getting into magic box, that would have been that could have been a little bit of a nasty surprise, I guess. And it looks like he has decided that wave number 1 is incoming. Don't forget, Sen has a bank of 5,500 minerals, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, he missed 2 Banelings. Would have done so much damage to that SCV line. Wow. But it looks like Sen doesn't care at the moment. He's currently 167 to 177 supply.
And
XY.
He's got 94 Lings in production.
That's less than 166.
That is significantly less than 166, but his supply count is already behind XY's. And he had that much in production. So XY did a great job with that defense.
It was really cost effective because a lot of those, I think Sen may have moved in with a little bit more 1A than he was otherwise expecting, and the reason for that is that he did so well in the equivalent engagement in the previous game, where he was just able to continuously roll into his opponent. This time around, XY's positioning was a little bit better. His units were slightly beefier. The Thors were at the front. The tanks took a lot of the damage. And
and the tanks also killed a lot of those Banelings.
Yeah, he just had more supply at the end of it. So with this next attack from Sen, I expect him to continue doing exactly the same thing, but expect to see a little bit more micro the second time around.
Yeah, he just needs a small extra amount of control here to really make it worth it. Imagine if only a couple of those Banelings had connected with the SCVs. He would be in a much more comfortable position, but now XY is able to extend his reach a little bit further down and handily chop the map in half.
I like that he snuck in and took this watchtower as well in the north position. That's going to let him know when stuff is coming. Those siege tanks are spread out really well, but whereas the bio, it's actually away from the tanks, and the positioning is not the best here for XY. Still killing a lot with the tanks, though, but it's looking a bit iffy this time, man.
Now, so many of those Banelings died there, but it doesn't matter when the bio is nowhere to be found, because all of the tanks will fall one by one from that flock of Mutalisks. And I don't know what XY is going to be able to do to defend here. Here he is scrambling to the best of his ability to get that bio back into the fight. But now the Zerglings continue to stream across out onto the map.
Yeah, the thing you want to remember as a Terran in that situation is you don't want to lose the units that cost you an absolute metric crap ton of gas. That's just bad. Losing tanks and losing medevacs are 2 things you don't want to do.
And your Thors.
Yeah.
Pretty much all of its
The Marines are effectively expendable, and they're expendable because your opponent is still spending money on Zerglings and Banelings. So that trade is fine as long as the tanks are doing the damage in the background. But if you allow your Zerg opponent to pick apart those gas-heavy units that take longer to reproduce, that means that over time their army's just going to get comparatively stronger, which is why we don't see XY maxed out again like he was before, desperately trying to get those factory-based units back out.
Oh, and in come all of the Zerglings just crashing through XY's lines, and big surround coming out onto those stores. The lone tank in the back doing what it can to defend with the other backup one on the cliff. Oh, pretty clutch pickup by XY, but there are just so many units out here. The rest of the army is going to be easy pickings for Sen.
Yeah, I think so. GG coming up from XY. Two of the bases on the outside completely taken apart there. Sen